Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Eric Mitchell. I am your host. This is our live show again, and I'll get to the introductions here in just a minute. But this is episode 42 of Starlight Beacon Transmissions Live. As I said, my name is Eric Mitchell. I am your host. We have a very fun show for you this evening. We are going to be talking about the High Republic. We're going to be giving you a spoiler free review of Marvel's Eye of the Storm #1. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Star Cruiser cancellations. And we're going to be breaking down Chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett. I am not doing this alone. Tonight, joining me once again is my good buddy. He is the Markian Row to my Elzar man. It is John Byram. See, I switched it up there a little bit, bud.
You caught me off guard. I won't lie. Like I
Yeah,
was I was fully waiting for like some like Anakin or Darth Vader reference, but I'll
yeah,
take Ro. He's
yeah,
uh he's secretly awesome.
yeah,
So you know.
yeah. He is. I mean, he's definitely up there for me when it comes to villains, and we're gonna get into that here in just a little bit with Eye of the Storm. And joining me tonight, making her debut, hopefully reoccurring guest. She is a Star Wars cosplayer and just all around awesome person. It's Brooke. Brooke, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. How's it going?
It's going. It's been a week, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, but here we are. We're live. It's Saturday night, and all is good in the world. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm
Yes.
excited.
Oh, we are too. So before we get started tonight, just have a couple of things that I want to talk about real quick. Um, so I stated this before to like in Discord and um like on Twitter and stuff. Like this week's been kind of a rough week. And so um I've been struggling with some stuff at work and everything, and uh I was just having like this really rough week, and then I found out that a very close family friend had passed away. And I do not mean to start the show like on a sad note, and I apologize, but this person was like an aunt to me, and so I wanted to dedicate tonight's show to her because I know that if there's one thing that she would want me to do, it's to just do what I love, and doing the show is one of the things that I love. So um, I dedicate this show to her, and um, so Abby is going to be stepping down as co-host for the show due to some work scheduling issues and some other stuff going on, and I understand completely. I fully respect that, and I wish her nothing but the best. Abby was a great co-host, absolutely great co-host, and like I said, I just wish her all the best. So this week we are going to start the search for the new co-host. So if you are interested, please shoot us a DM, shoot us an email, talk to us in Discord, all of that great stuff. And, you know, we would love to have you on, even if it's having you on as a guest before we announce you as co-host. We'll talk about it. So I just wanted to share a few of those things tonight as we get going here. We do have some announcements. Yes, we have some announcements to get through. The audio version of this episode will be available on Wednesday, and along with some High Republic reviews. Finally, I am finally going to release the audio version of my review of Fallen Star, as well as talking about Mission to Disaster. I can't talk about Midnight Horizon just yet, but I will say this: I am halfway through that book, and what Daniel Jose Alder is doing is incredible. Our RPG group We'll be meeting this week. We're going to be getting together to talk about what day we're finally going to do the start of our campaign for this year. So I think we're doing that on Wednesday night, I believe. Even if Ellie isn't there, we'll hammer out all the details. So we do have that. Tonight, I am actually going to announce our first adventure of the 2022 campaign, but I'm going to do that at the end of the announcements here. You can join us on Discord every Wednesday night for our Book of Boba Fett watch parties. Yes, every Wednesday night during this season, we are doing watch parties in our Discord where we just get together, hang out, and watch the latest episode of Book of Boba Fett, even if you've seen it before, which a bunch of us probably already have, but it's still nice to have it. January 28th, we're doing another watch party. We are going to be screening the brand new Amazon original adult animated series, The Legend of Vox Machina, which is based on the Critical Role Twitch RPG show. And speaking of RPGs, I am going to announce the start of the campaign for 2022. The next adventure is The Gang. This was actually given to us by Katrina Dennis, one of our RPG players, and I love this idea. The gang is going to steal the Halcyon. We are stealing the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Totally acceptable.
Yes.
Totally acceptable. I love it. I love it.
Considering that we can't pay $4,800 for this experience, we're going to steal it. So that is that. Anything else? Anybody want to talk about anything else before we get rolling into the news here? Because we have a lot of news topics to talk about. Anyone? Bueller? No? Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. Let's get into it here. Oh, by the way, hi chat. Sorry about that. Hi guys. Farm Boy, thank you for being here. Zach, once again, thank you for being here. Just thank you, everybody. So let's get into the news here. Claudia Gray, you may or may not have heard of her. She is a Star Wars author. She is one of the Luminous Five. Well, I guess we could say Luminous Nine now, because we have four more writers joining the High Republic team. Claudia Gray's Fallen Star debuts at number 7 on the New York Times bestseller list. The High Republic is now 747 in bestsellers. This is huge. This is awesome. Yes, Farm Boy, we are stealing the Halcyon. What are your thoughts on this? I'll start with Brooke real quick because I know that you read Fallen Star and had the same reaction I did.
I am like not surprised, but also like pleasantly surprised at the same time. I'm really happy how successful the High Republic stuff has been. I think the High Republic like community, if you will, online has been super, super supportive. At least the people that are actually reading the books and actually consuming the content, and not like the people that are just yelling in YouTube comments about a rock. But so I think it's really cool. And like I feel like they do their marketing for their novels and comics like a lot differently. Like obviously you don't see a commercial for something like you would for the Book of Boba Fett. So
yeah,
I think it's really cool. And it's all been really good stuff. So I'm happy.
Yeah, no, I am too. John, I know that you're about halfway through Rising Storm, but how are you feeling about this whole 7 for 7 thing?
I think it's a great accomplishment, and especially anytime where you have an era of a sci-fi universe like Star Wars being written by multiple authors. It's very hard to keep a perfection like this. Like you can't be perfect forever. But 7 for 7, super impressive. Obviously, you know, we've made the joke about it here, you know, here on the Discord channel as well. You know, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan in the world because just the amount of content coming out is absurd in the best way possible. It's like every other week something comes out. If you're a comic book fan and you like Star Wars comics, like it's like every week something comes out. Um, we have Disney Plus. I mean, again, I said it last week. Imagine growing up during the original trilogy, where you had to wait like 6 years in between or whatever, and then like growing up like our generation with the prequels, where it was like 3-4 years in between, and then now it's like I have to wait 3 more months for the next Disney Plus miniseries to come out. This is ridiculous. It's like it's such a great time to be a Star Wars fan. The content's amazing, and what an accomplishment to go 7 for 7 for New York Times bestseller. I mean that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not, I mean, congratulations to everybody involved, especially Claudia Gray, because you knocked it out of the park with that book. Absolutely. Next up, we are going to be talking about High Republic number 13. This is the Avar Chris centric series. Looks like this is happening right before the events of Fallen Star. This is when Avar Chris is going for Lorna D. Now, they did release the opening crawl to this next chapter in the High Republic comic series, and I believe this is called Jedi End. I believe that's what this chapter is called. And Kevin Scott's opening crawl is amazing. And like at one point, it's like Lorna D doesn't suspect like what's going on, like, and now Avar Chris is on the hunt. So we see her with the Atraxia going after Lorna D. These panels look beautiful. The cover art looks incredible as always, and I can't wait to see where this one goes. Uh, Let me start with Brooke here. How do you feel about this preview that we got for High Republic 13?
It looks awesome. I'm loving like the art style for the High Republic comics, both this and the High Republic Adventures. I think it's like beautiful, and like just the art style is very like colorful. Which, not that the other Star Wars comics aren't as colorful, but I feel like when you think of, the golden age of the Jedi, it's going to be a lot brighter. So already with that, I really like it. I am a big fan of Lorna D. I think Tempest Runner is probably one of my favorite things that's come out of the High Republic so far. So I'm just excited to see more of her character and where that goes.
Yeah, John, how do you feel about this?
I second the art style. I think it looks absolutely incredible. Just how comics have evolved over the past, not just 40-50 years, but over the past 5 years has been absolutely incredible. The one that really caught my attention, probably for all the wrong reasons, in the preview was the full page cell, because it totally looks like Doctor Strange opened a portal and everyone's walking through it.
Yeah.
But it's I'm just like, it's like that. There's that Marvel Star Wars crossover that everyone is so desperate for, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think it looks great. This is actually a series I have just started, so I'm a little bit behind for the High Republic main series line here. But yeah, so far story's great. The artwork's great, and I think it's definitely helping set that landscape for the High Republic going forward.
Yeah, I second everything that you guys say about this. I mean, this series, if you have not read this series, you should. I believe Kevin Scott's run on this series is about to come to an end within like the next month or two, and then he'll be starting a new High Republic Marvel series in October with Phase 2. So we'll have to see what comes of that. But we're not done with comics. There is a known archaeologist, that may or may not be a scoundrel. Who knows? It's Dr. Afra, and we have a look at Dr. Afra at number 18, which Dr. Afra has to solve a ritual murder. This I have to say the artwork in this looks phenomenal. I think it's going to be interesting to tie this into Crimson Reign. I want to see how this ties into Crimson Reign as well. But I can't wait to read this series. If there's one thing, Dr. Afra, out of all the new characters, Dr. Afra is definitely one of my favorites. And if you have not listened to the Dr. Afra audio drama, you really should because It's fantastic. So I'm going to start with John here, and then we'll go with Brooke. John, your thoughts on Dr. Afra's 18, the preview?
As a representative of the portion of the population that has not listened to the audio drama or read this series so far, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Again, I mean, it looks great. Everything I've heard about the new character and the series has been fantastic. It's just as soon as I find more time in my day
Yeah,
to add more stuff to it, I'll be more than happy to. I gotta
yeah,
gotta finish some other things up first, but yeah, I think it looks great. I love what Marvel and Star Wars are doing with their comics, bringing and introducing more characters, giving more background. Because I feel like that's what a lot of people really want, even if it's with older characters. And this is a point I'll bring up a little bit later in the show when we talk about the Book of Boba Fett. Is there's nothing wrong with learning more about a character's origin or their origin story or how they came to be some legendary character that we grew up with or whatever. Um, and there's nothing wrong with finding humanity in the bad guy either. What made them become a bad guy or what put them on that path. So I think it's very interesting when new media outlets come out with background stories with other characters and kind of give them that full character treatment, that main character treatment. So I'm super excited for it. Hopefully here in the next couple of weeks I can get started on that series and listen to that audio drama.
yeah. I understand what it's like not to have time to like
Yeah.
read this stuff because it's crazy, especially like juggling work and everything. Brooke, your thoughts on Dr. Afra 18, the preview?
Yeah. So I will also say that I'm like a newer comic fan. I started with the first High Republic, so I've only been reading comics
Okay.
for like a year.
Oh, cool.
So Dr. Aphra is not one that I've gotten to yet, although I loved what we were given of her in War of the Bounty Hunters, and
Hmm.
I've been trying to keep up with that. And I loved the first Crimson Reign, so I like this is gonna tie into that. It just makes me excited for all the like future live action stuff now that we got like characters like Black Chrysanthemum. I'm like, okay, that opens the door for a live action Dr. Aphra. And from everything I've heard about it, she's like an amazing character, and I am hopeful that we're gonna see more of those. Not that because as much as like comics are awesome, but like the overall general audience is going to be more into just the visual media. And so if you're not reading the books or the comics, you're missing out on some of these amazing characters, and they're just going to be those people that are just not into reading. So to bring those characters to the screen would be really cool. So with this kind of like tie-in to Crimson Reign and, hints of Kira maybe showing up in the book of Boba Fett, at least hopefully. Um, I think it's all really cool. And I
Yeah,
like the art style for this. I like how all of the different runs have like a slightly kind of different art style based on whatever artist is working on it. And yeah, they're all really great.
yeah, I'm in agreement here, especially like when you were talking about seeing these characters in different mediums and everything. Like nobody knew outside of comic book readers, nobody knew who Black Chrysanthemum was
Hmm.
until after the Book of Boba Fett, where they're like, who's this guy? Like, I want to know more about him. And just like with Cobb Vanth in The Mandalorian, nobody really knew who he was unless you read the Aftermath trilogy, which, if you've got the time, I say go for it, but it's, not my favorite, but, whatever. Um, but hopefully we do get Dr. Aphra in live action. Since we got Black Chrysanthemum now, hopefully Aphra does show up in like the Book of Boba Fett. Like they could easily do that too. So we'll have to keep our eyes out. But yes, Dr. Aphra 18, I believe, is coming up next week as well. So we have High Republic 13 and Dr. Aphra 18 to look forward to. Um, that is it for the comic book news. We did get an interview with Phil Sostik about the art of the Mandalorian season 2, which if you've never read these art books or never looked through these art books, you should because they're incredible art books. Just all of the art, just all of the Star Wars art books are great. I know that we have the art book for like the first few seasons of the Clone Wars that we found at like Five Below,
Wow.
Yeah. Um, but
Disney allowed that?
yeah, yeah. Apparently they did.
They've actually there's a lot of Clone Wars merch at Five Below. Like I
Yeah.
found a Clone Wars t-shirt, like lots
Wow.
of stuff, which is
Yeah.
weird
I
because
Yeah.
you
need to
don't
start
see it a
going in
lot of
there.
other places. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I saw Bad Batch merch at Five Below too. I was like,
Hmm.
really? This is interesting. Like,
Wow.
yeah. It was just like t-shirts, like Brooke said, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. So we get this interview and we see a few of these panels from the art of the Mandalorian here, which I gotta tell you, like the I want this on my coffee table. Like just in case I'm entertaining and like somebody sees it, they could just be like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, well, have you ever heard of this show called The Mandalorian?" But yeah, this is just an interview with Phil Sostek about like the character designs for season 2, especially like the Ahsoka Tano design and everything. What are your thoughts on just the art of Mandalorian season 2? I'll start with Brooke and then we'll go with John.
I am like obsessed with concept art. I love like anything about behind the scenes, especially like all the practical effects is like my jam. I love learning about all the practical effects. Like today, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but Danny Trejo posted a picture of him and
Yes.
Tamora in front of the Rancor. At least the
Hmm.
head of it was like a puppet, and I was like, that is so cool. So I love seeing all of the concept art. I love that the one of Din and the dark saber with the lightsaber, because I know if you watched the gallery episode with of the finale, they
Yes.
had talked about how a lot of the concept art they were trying to hide the fact that it was Luke Skywalker, so they put like Plo Koon in there instead. And I was like, oh, that's funny. There's a blue lightsaber. It's because they were trying to hide it being Luke. So I love how they did that. I have my partner got me the art book for Jedi Fallen Order for Christmas,
Oh,
Ooh.
nice.
and it is like absolutely beautiful. So I am like all about the art books and seeing the like Ahsoka concept art. I love. I know a lot of people are like mad that we didn't get what is on the page because she looks a lot different from the concept art, but it was mostly like practical stuff for, stunts and whatever, so I'm not mad at it, but like it's all just so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. All of these art books are amazing. Real quick before I get to you, John, Jane just popped in chat. Uh, the season 1 and season 2 DVDs of Clone Wars had incredible art books included with them. Yes, they did. I completely forgot that they had those in there too. Farm Boy says, love the art of Star Wars books. So much told in all of them. Yeah, I mean these books are incredible. He says, yeah, I mean, season 1 Mandalorian art of. Yeah, I mean that's incredible. And Zach, you're right. The concept art is amazing. It's great because this is just pages of the concept art that we get in the credits for each of these shows, and that's actually one of my favorite things about these shows is just seeing the concept art like rolling through the credits, and just seeing like everything that they went through. John, go ahead, give us your thoughts on Art of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, the first thing, they did my dude Grogu wrong. Like, look at him. He's trying to eat these cookies and he's drooling all over the place. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, come on. He's a child. It's fine. It's fine. Grogu's a child. It's fine. I get it. No, I love it. I'm right there with both of you. The concept art is great. Anytime you can see where original idea came from and how it was brought to light on the screen. Yeah, it's gonna look a little different. It is concept art, but that's kind of like how you can see the creative process come to fruition. There's an idea, there's a rough draft, there's more rough drafts, and then there's eventually the final product. But it's a really cool way to look behind the scenes of that creative process and kind of give you an idea of, you know, what the brains behind the Mandalorian that are involved with Lucasfilms and Disney and just what they're trying to go with going forward. And those picture boards that you see at the end of the episodes, you know, that's how every piece of cinematography is made, is from still drawn pictures on a board that are brought to life. And when they're able to match those drawn scenes up with live acting, with CGI and everything else they bring into it, it's just really cool to see that idea come to life. I'm a huge fan of concept art. I think it's great. I think it's not appreciated enough. I think it's absolutely fantastic that they're adding it at the end of all the Mandalorian episodes as well.
Yes.
That's just like a little special treat at the end. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on this. So I'm actually looking at this real quick, and I gotta say, like, my favorite piece of concept art here with you're talking about Grogu with the cookies. One of the cookies is like one of the pictures has the cookies as sabacc cards, and I absolutely love
Mm.
that. I think that that is just fantastic. And then the whole crate dragon concept art I thought was great too. So yeah, definitely pick this one up. I think that this one is definitely worth the buy, especially because I think they only retail for like 40 or $50, which isn't that bad for an art book. So definitely take a look at that. Next, we have. I thought that this was over, but apparently it wasn't. Bring Home the Bounty is back again. And this time we have quite a few things. We have a black Cursantin t-shirt here. We have a Book of Boba Fett long sleeve t-shirt that includes the twins. We have a Garza Fwip Sanctuary tote bag. And then we also have a Book of Boba Fett socks with Tuscans on them. And so and then the last thing that we have here is a Book of Boba Fett blaster Nerf gun. Any thoughts on this? I figured that we could just like include it in the, include it in our show. But any thoughts on this?
I
It,
think they do a great job just kind of hitting towards different parts of the fandom with this. Like, I'll be completely honest, like this drop did absolutely nothing for me. But
Exactly.
I know there's people out there that are excited. For the socks. I'm a big fan of crazy socks, but like these socks just don't do it for me, and it's fine. They're not reaching out to me. That's completely fine. They're reaching out to somebody else. That's completely cool. Um, I like to see how creative they're getting with these drops, with just their ideas behind the merch. But yeah, I mean, I think they're great. But again, they're not for everyone, and that's completely cool because there were some other weeks I felt like someone like hacked into my mind. We're like, yeah, we're gonna make these just for John because this is like everything he's asked for, and we're just gonna, this week is gonna be his. And it was just like, okay, cool, sweet, great. And then like the next 3 weeks, like, I was like, yeah, okay, well, this is not for me. And that's completely cool. I love what they're doing though. Overall, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Brooke, go ahead.
um, yeah, it's kind of the same for me. I'm honestly not a huge fan of like most of the official merch that gets put out. A lot of it, I know, like with the Mandalorian, they didn't have any Grogu merch at first because they didn't want anything leaking. But sometimes I feel like it's just kind of boring to me. And like I'm a small business owner myself, so I would rather support other small businesses, and there are so many like people that are so creative in making their, Marvel related or Star Wars related merch that's like so much cooler. I'm like a big fan of um more like subtle merch. Like I like adding like subtle nerd things to my wardrobe and stuff, and less, not always like big t-shirts. Like obviously I've got like normal sweatshirt on, but um other than that, like it's just okay. Like I give enough of my money to to Star Wars and all the official stuff, so try to support the smaller businesses when I can. So for the
Yeah.
most part, I haven't been like a huge fan of a lot of the most of the Bring Home the Bounty stuff. I think it's cool that they were doing it as a campaign to like get the hype up, but other than that, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm with you here. If Farm Boy, I know the EE3 Nerf blaster does look pretty cool, but I'm with Brooke and John on this one. I just think that this was a cool thing to. It was a cool thing for them to do, especially like if you're a Black Series figure collector. Like it was an easier way to pre-order those figures. But other than that, I love crazy socks too, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to get Boba Fett socks, like, or those Boba Fett socks. Now with this, I'm probably not gonna get invited to Star Cruiser, because
We're
because
stealing it anyway,
yeah,
so it's
yeah, we're
fine.
stealing it anyway. Which I'm actually gonna tweet at Disney when we do that
Don't
too.
do that.
No,
We'll
I'm
never be
kidding.
able to go back. That trip in 2023 won't happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kidding. I kid. But I'm with you too, Brooke. I mean, support small businesses, support small creators. One of my favorite things that I have is a phone case that my wife got from Etsy, and it was like a Galaxy's Edge-esque phone case, like a
Hmm.
data pad phone case that I was able to just.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like 3D printed, you know what I mean? But like it had like everything that made it look like a data pad. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's like one of my favorite things. And then, um, like a lot of my t-shirts now are from like small businesses and stuff like T Public or Etsy or what have you, because the fans are the ones that carry this.
Hmm.
They're the ones that, you know, I mean, it's wild to like when you go to conventions and stuff and you see like all of like the small artists like putting out like all of this work and all of these products that in my opinion, rivals the stuff that Disney's putting out there, or if not, is better than the stuff that Disney's putting out there at times. So, um, yeah, support your local businesses, people. Like, support small creators and everything. Support Brooks Shop, far, far away, because you have some really good stuff on there too. So,
Thanks.
yeah. I love the Matt Murdock earrings too. I think that
Oh,
those
thank
are
you.
awesome. Yeah.
Just released those.
So, Uh, yeah, I think that we are good with that. We have two more things to go into before, actually three more things here. We are going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Eye of the Storm #1. This is something that John and I both read. Brooke, you are going to be picking up here very shortly.
Hmm.
And yes, um, John, your spoiler-free thoughts on Eye of the Storm #1.
I loved it.
Yeah,
Absolutely loved it.
yeah,
For a short mini series on such a large character in this new era of Star Wars, uh, it's everything I wanted in a comic. It's everything I wanted in a background story of how this uh strong character in this universe is really coming to where he is. And boy, it's so hard to talk about him without spoiling anything. But his life journey that you go through uh is so powerful, again shaping how he became who he is today, in where we are in the books and the other comics and the audiobooks is just absolutely phenomenal. I think the writers knocked out of the park, the illustrators absolutely crushed it. um I can't say enough good things about this miniseries. It really gives Marcin Rowe a not justification, but like it gives you a good idea of where he is, how he became who he is, and just gives you that background that I feel like is necessary for a character like Roe.
yeah. I'm 100% with you on that one. I love this book too. It was, for being such a thick book, it was actually a really quick read too. It'll take you like maybe 20 minutes to read it. That is the main cover, or one of the main covers
It's a
for it.
variant cover. Yeah.
Yes, that's right, a variant cover. But I have to say, Charles Soule like really gets this character. That is that is the expensive cover.
The one that everyone doesn't like.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but Charles Soule really just he really makes you feel for Marky and Roe, especially like in his childhood, which is like we see some of that in this book. I'm not going to give anything else away because this book is just it's that good and deserves to just be read by everybody. I mean, if you're a fan of the High Republic or you're looking to get into the High Republic, jump in on this one because you're going to be in for a wild ride. That's all I'm going to say about this. So, uh, let's move on here. We do have a date for tickets to go on sale for this year's D23 2022, happening in Anaheim, September 9th through the 11th. Tickets do go on sale January 20th. It actually starts on January 19th for Visa card holders. And then,
Ooh.
yeah, and then the rest of us schlebs get it on the, if we can get it on the 20th here. Um, I've always wanted to attend D23 because like this thing is, it's Comic Con for Disney essentially. Uh, if you do get the opportunity, what do you want to go to D23? Are you trying to go to D23 this year, or do you think that you'll wait a couple of more years after the pandemic finally like subsides to go to D23? I'll start with Brooke.
Really thought too much about going to because I didn't like I feel like I've been out of the loop with that kind of stuff until recently, but it seems like it's super fun and I know they announced like Ashley Eckstein is going to be on the panel for the costume contest this year, which is really cool. Um if the tickets were on sale later in the year, I would definitely think about it more. I'm like my goal is to go to Star Wars Celebration in
Hmm.
May, as long as that's still happening. And since we don't have ticket information for that, I can't make two trips to California without going absolutely broke.
Yeah,
So that's my first priority. But if for some reason I don't go to Celebration and I have the opportunity to go to D23, I wouldn't say no. So
yeah. Same here. And John, your thoughts?
As someone who frequents a lot of conventions, my biggest issue is the pricing.
Yeah,
$100 for one day is a little steep. Uh, you really only get a $20 discount if you buy all 3 days. A lot of other conventions, it's like, oh, $75 for 3 days or $40 for one day kind of thing. And it's like, okay, the $75 mark makes a lot more sense. Obviously it's the Disney magic markup, but for me, it's like I'm a big, like, I like Disney, but I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. Those are the two things that I would probably prioritize.
mhm.
The other things with Disney probably don't speak to me as much. Like, I do enjoy their animated movies and their other movies and whatever. But again, like, Celebration would speak more to me.
yeah,
Going to Hollywood Studios or Disneyland in California and experiencing Batu West, that would mean more to me than going to a convention where I may only 20% care about it, but still have to pay full price.
yeah. I can
Mhm.
see that too. And that is the problem with D23 is it is so expensive to just attend the convention, not to mention airfare and trying to find a hotel or an Airbnb, then having to dish out for that. Not to mention you might have to get a rental car too, because it is California. So I mean, I'm the same way here. Like if I have the opportunity to go to Hollywood Studios or Disneyland or even to see like Avengers Campus, um, which is something I really want to see, I'll take that over going to D23. Like I think that the parks are just up there for me in terms of that, and I'm the same way. Marvel and Star Wars are like one and two, with Star Wars being number one, of course, but like having those two together, that's my priority. Like I'd rather experience that in a park setting or just go see an MCU movie or like if they had a Marvel Studios specific convention, sure, I'd be down to go. But that's Comic-Con. Like
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that's every
I'd definitely
Comic-Con.
rather go if I was going to California, maybe like San Diego or LA Comic Con or something
Yeah.
next year or this year, I guess, over
Yeah.
D23.
Yeah. And if I'm going to California, I'm going to Celebration before I
Hmm.
go to D23. So I just wanted to talk about this real quick because I noticed like they're like, hey, guess what? Tickets are about to go on sale, and it's like, yeah, but do we though? you know, because I was my wife and I were looking at the John, we were looking at the tickets for Katsucon like in February, and for like one day it was like $60. For like the weekend it was 85, and I was like, I might as well
Mhm.
just pay the $85 for the weekend if I'm gonna go. So it's like that, the whole thing that you were talking about with the markups. So speaking of Disney and Disney World, more and more cancellations are coming through for a certain hotel. Well, the first couple of weeks are booked, but after that, like they are struggling to get people in on this thing. So with the Halcyon, and ever since that video that they released about the stuff that you can do on the Halcyon, the ill-received video here, how long are we thinking until there is a dramatic price drop on this on the Halcyon? Uh, Brooke, what's your over under on 6 months until it's like down to like $600 a person?
Feel like honestly, it's gonna come down to the people that go first and end up reviewing their experience and the YouTube videos that come out that actually show what it looks like and not like a Disney promoted video.
Yeah.
I am like very easy to please, so I mean, when I watched that first video, I was like, "Oh, that looks really cool." I
Mhm.
didn't really think a lot about it, but I'm also don't have the money to go right now, so I'm not like don't have a very high stakes investment
Mhm.
into it as of right now.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people are honestly waiting for those first reviews to come in to decide if they're going to spend their money on that. I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with COVID stuff
Yeah.
too. Like the diehards are going to go no matter what. But I feel like there are a lot of people who are just would rather wait until things are better. I'm assuming like because when Disney itself reopened, we got we had a little bit of a watered down experience just
Yeah.
because of all the protocols and
Mhm.
not even just the masks, but things were closed.
Mhm.
You couldn't meet with characters. There's a lot of stuff that they couldn't do. And I'm wondering if people are nervous about spending all of this money to go to the Star Cruiser and have
Mhm.
it be not the full experience because of these, COVID protocols
Mhm.
and stuff. So I'm sure it's a plethora of things.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, Disney has proven over and over that it can just keep raising their prices and people will still show up and spend the
Yeah.
money. So I'm not anticipating the price to really go down that much unless it's like an absolute flop,
Mhm.
which I have like a little more faith in them that they'll do it right,
Mhm.
hopefully. I mean, I love Batu so much.
Yeah.
I've been to Galaxy's Edge twice now and like I could just sit there all day and like not do anything or ride anything. I could just like be in that space.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that the Star Cruiser will give people that same feeling. It's
Mhm.
just we have gotten very minimal like actual information or
Mhm.
actual footage of what it looks like and what it's going to look like and I don't know. It's really a toss up.
Yeah, I'll get to that point here in just a second after we get to after we get John's thoughts. John, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's gonna take the like YouTube creators, the
Yeah.
vloggers that are out there, have them putting their videos out
Mhm.
with hopefully what is an honest review of their experience. Um, and hopefully it's not one of those things where Disney's like, hey, we're gonna invite all the popular Disney vloggers out here and put on a special show, and then it
Mhm.
turns out to be completely different.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to think Disney has a little more
Mhm.
uh uh pride or
Yeah.
not as scummy of a company or something like that. Or like corporate America.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's what's going to take. That video really did hurt them. I think the fact that everything's being so secretive still
Mhm.
is another thing that hurts them. And I get it. Disney wants it to be a surprise, but I'm sorry. Like if I'm in the marketing department and I'm seeing this happen, I'm sitting here reaching out to whoever I need to say, hey, look, we need to put more information out there.
Yeah.
People just don't understand what we're trying to do, like what this really is.
Yeah.
Um, and it's Disney. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you you have to experience it, and by then it's too late because you've dropped $5,000 to do it.
Yeah.
Uh, they just really need to go about thinking how they do this going forward. And if it falls flat on their face, then I mean, what better company to survive a multi-million-dollar mistake than Disney?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's we'll I'll wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you here, especially like going to both of your points here, and you both touch on the same point about for the price that you're paying, you should know going in what is going to happen. Like by now, they should have like I know like they have that sample schedule or whatever on the website, but like they should have it like with Disney Cruise Line. Like if you book a cruise, you know where you're going, you know what
Mm-hmm.
activities are available and stuff like that. For this, they need to treat it the same way. And for the price that you're paying and to go in with as little information as possible about this experience, like, yeah, we know there's lightsaber training. We know that there's bridge training. We know there's a lounge on board. We know that there's food involved and stuff like that. But what else is going on? You know, what else are you going to be able to do on this thing? And I think, John, you and I were talking about it weeks ago with the itinerary and how it was like after like 10 o'clock or like after like 9 o'clock, there's nothing available
Yeah.
to do. And it's like, so what do they say like at 9:30, get in your room because it's lights out? Like you can't do anything? Like, do they force you in your rooms? So that to me just raises a few red flags. I'm with you here too. We'll see about like what the YouTubers are saying, what these vloggers are saying. Disney Food Blog is a really good one to follow, especially when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to this. But I'm with you too, Brooke. I've been to Batu a couple of times now, and sometimes I would just rather just sit there and just relax and just take it all in and just know that I'm just in this place that's so strange yet familiar and just feel like I'm at home for a while. So, um,
Yeah. I
yeah,
tried when I went to Galaxy's Edge for the first time, I tried to avoid watching videos or really
yeah,
seeing anything about it, but I still had all of the information. I still knew that there were these were the places to eat. The cantina was here.
yeah,
There's the lightsaber building. There's these things. Like I knew everything that was there,
hmm,
and I was still blown away going in because I made sure to not. I just didn't want to see any of the stuff. But
yeah,
so like you were saying, I feel like they need to have a better like brochure of
hmm,
things because I it's and even with like the sample schedule, it's still very confusing of who they're actually marketing this whole experience towards. Is it for
yes,
families or is it for like adult couples or what? Because it's got like the same it's got like the Canto Bite vibe,
it does.
and that's not what I think of when I think of Star Wars. Like I
No,
think not to get like too into like analysis of the movies, but they make a very point, like an important point in The Last Jedi to talk about like these class differences between, up here with the Canto Bite people and then all the people down here. And I think for most Star Wars fans, we want to be with all the people down here.
yeah,
And from what I've seen from the Halcyon, it looks great, but it also looks too clean.
yeah, it
Like, it
does.
doesn't look like it looks very Star Trek-y to me. I feel
Hmm,
like Star Trek is kind of like a lot more clean overall, like that
hmm,
kind of vibe versus that's why I love Star Wars so much because it's a very much lived-in universe.
hmm,
And so I don't know, I feel like that would be my hesitation as well.
yeah.
But
For a ship that's roughly 230 years old at this point, because it does launch during the era of the High Republic, we should see a little bit of grime on the outside. We should see a little bit of grime on the corridors and everything.
mhm.
Like, but you're right. Like, this definitely feels like a Canto Bite esque thing where it's like, yeah, your kids can be involved, but it definitely feels like it's more catered to adults to like live out a Star Wars fantasy. But let's face it, the average adult doesn't have $4,800 to spend for a 2 night experience like this. Like, I can barely afford my Disney trips as it is. Like, like,
Yeah.
so we'll see how it goes. Definitely see how it goes. But other than that, that's it. We're done with the news here. The Halcyon will have to wait for another day. Let's move into our main topic of the night, which is going to be a breakdown and review of Chapter 3 of the book of Robert A. Fettuccini III. Um, yeah,
Squire.
yeah, Esquire, attorney at law. Um, he's one of Stevie Palp's people. Uh, but before we get into the spoilers, I just want to get your non-spoiler thoughts on this episode. And then after that, we're diving into spoilers. So if you have not watched Chapter 3, I'm going to give you one more spoiler warning after we do the spoiler 3 reactions. So, Brooke, what was your spoiler free reaction to Chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa?
Okay. Spoiler free. I have mixed feelings about the episode, as I think a lot of people do. There were a lot of things I really liked, and there were some things that I was not too crazy about, which I'm sure we'll get into. I do love that without even knowing who directed this episode, I knew exactly who directed this episode, and it was very
Yes.
unapologetically Robert Rodriguez. So I loved that about it. I know a lot of people, have some complaints about some of the style choices and whatnot, but I think it's fun. I think we take Star Wars too seriously sometimes,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just goofy and fun and campy, and there was a lot about that episode in there that I really liked.
Hmm.
So overall, I have a overall positive
Hmm.
feelings about the episode.
Okay. That's I mean that's more than fair because not everybody is gonna enjoy each episode. I mean,
Hmm.
I totally get that, and that's why we have these conversations, especially about this, and we're gonna dive into that. John, your thoughts, spoiler free, of episode 3.
Um, I think mixed is a correct word.
Hmm.
I loved episode 1 or chapter 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. I loved chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. I felt like we finally started having some kind of direction, and then chapter 3 came, and I um spoiler free. I have more concerns than anything else at the moment.
Hmm.
And when we dive into the spoiler version, I'll bring those up. But um, I feel like this episode may have put a lot of people off,
Yeah.
and I really hope people are willing just to give that episode a second try, because I watched it. I think it was like 3 or 4 times, and
Hmm.
I can't even say it got better with each rewatch. Like, I still was just as mixed
Hmm.
about it, but I feel like we're now at a point in this series where they have to hammer down a direction,
Yeah.
because there's 4 episodes left, and this episode just didn't do that for me. So I think out of the 3, this one was by far the weakest.
Yeah. I will say that also. This is definitely the weakest of the 3 episodes that we've gotten, or 3 chapters, or whatever you want to call them. I'm the same way. On my first viewing, I really enjoyed it a lot, and then like when I went to the second viewing and like even a third viewing, I was like, oh, okay. Like I started to see the problems that I had with the episode. And don't get me wrong, it's still enjoyable and it's still silly and fun and campy. And that's what I mean, I love when Star Wars is exactly what it's supposed to be, and that's this. Um, I'm not expecting Goodfellas in the Star Wars universe. Like, I'm not expecting that. But yeah, I will also agree with you, Brooke. This is definitely a Robert Rodriguez directed episode, especially with gratuitous cameo. that we will get into here in just a minute. But you know, this is definitely the weakest. I loved chapter 1. Absolutely was floored by chapter 2. I thought chapter 2 was amazing. Um, but then also chapter three's issues also come down to runtime, like a 38-minute runtime again. So this is going to be a spoiler breakdown now. This is going to be a spoiler review here. So this is your final spoiler warning. So, cover your ears or turn the podcast off or what have you, because we're diving in here. So with this episode, we get a small flashback, but we're mostly in the present here with what is going on. We have Boba Fett trying to figure out who's actually behind the Ninth Wind assassins still. And we have Boba Fett visited by the Watermonger, which I think is really interesting. And interesting character actor Stephen Root plays the Watermonger, which I can't think about him outside of Dodgeball and Office Space, really. Um, Even though he was in the newsroom and he was phenomenal in the newsroom, but yeah, and he talks about these damn punk kids in Tatooine that are stealing his water. And so we meet the damn punk kids from Tatooine in the streets of Mos Espa, and they're pretty much a Vespa biker gang. I guess we could say that we saw space Vespas in this one, so it shouldn't be the streets of Mos Espa. It should be the streets of Mos Vespa. Really, I know that was a terrible pun.
Joey would be proud.
Yeah, Joey would be proud. Uh, but before that, we also find out that Mos Espa was divided into 3 districts by 3 crime lords, also, which was really interesting in how the Hutts are now trying to vie for uh, what was Jabba's territory and then was Bib Fortuna's territory. Um, and so this is where the problems start, and that's for a bunch of street rats. These kids were awfully clean. Yeah, I mean they were awfully
Yeah.
clean. Now I get it, like they have cybernetic enhancements and stuff like that, and their bikes were awfully clean too. And and why was this guy afraid of these kids? Because they had
I
droid
I've
parts.
I feel like it was more like he was upset that these punk kids were protesting how much he was charging for water.
Yeah,
And I mean, I feel like the Vespa biker gang is more representative of the current generation in the US. I mean really around the world for Gen Z, seeing something that is wrong and them kind of sticking it to the man a little bit.
yeah,
And 1,300 credits for a week's worth of water, let's just call it $1,300 for 5 gallons of water. That's
yeah,
ridiculous no matter who you are. Not saying that's what the accurate translation and monetary value and whatnot, but still, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, are the Vespa biker gang the issue, or is it the guy selling the water
yeah,
the issue? And like, I get it, supply and demand. You live on a planet that is completely desert. Water comes at a premium. I get that, but at the same time, it's like I didn't have a problem with the conflict. I didn't have a problem with the biker gang having cybernetic enhancements. I had more of an issue that when I saw them, the first thing that went to my mind was, oh, we're doing a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger crossover.
yeah.
Because they all had like the accurate colored bikes.
They did.
And I'm just sitting there going like, oh, okay, like this is kind of unique. Like, and at that first introduction, I gave it a pass. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. This is something different. I'm fine with this.
Mhm.
It wasn't until a little bit later in the episode that I started to have like a little bit of a not really issue, but it just didn't hit right. It just didn't
Yeah.
feel right. But I thought the story up to that point was great. It introduced
Yeah.
another wild card,
Mhm.
being someone in his district now starting to push back. And we saw that defiance from the get go when he shows up and goes, you know what? Just nobody respects you.
Yeah.
And that's my problem also. People should respect you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it introduced a unique character,
Hmm.
but it just followed up with something that seemed a little too far out there.
Yeah.
And that may have where people started just going like, you know that thing your dog or cat does when you make a sound and they're just kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was me. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure a lot of other people watching this going like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Power Rangers, Star Wars, go ahead.
Well, Brooke, your thoughts real quick before we touch more on this.
Feel like I don't necessarily think it's like the content of what we were seeing in the episode that I have an issue with. It's more like the we have an idea in our head of what Tatooine is
Yes.
just from the other times that we've seen it. And
Hmm.
I feel like they haven't done the best job at world building this part of Tatooine because this is the
Hmm.
first time we've really seen like Mos Espa
Hmm.
since like what the Phantom Menace we saw
Yeah.
Mos Espa.
Yeah.
And now obviously it's been 20, 30 something years. Things are going to change a lot, but I don't know if I don't know if it's slow world building or if they're just, kind of throwing stuff at us without
Hmm.
really having it feel like a complete kind of thought cuz like the biker gang doesn't bother me. I thought they were kind of fun. I kind of
Yeah.
love their like bright colors and I
Hmm.
kind of I think about it like oh maybe they're just, these teenagers and this is all that they have so this is what
Yeah.
they're taking the best care of this thing that they can.
Hmm.
Um but it just seems odd cuz like from what we've seen in the show, we've really only seen like the mayor's office, we've seen the spa, and then we've seen like some of the streets
Hmm.
of Mos Espa without really kind of and hopefully I don't want to judge it too hard because like we still have 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll dive more into how, the city is broken into 3 different subsets of like crime lords now. Which
Hmm.
I thought was weird that they kind of mentioned that and then they didn't circle back to it at all in this
No.
episode. It was just
No.
kind of introduced in the beginning.
Hmm.
So hopefully they can bring it back so it'll be feel more put together.
Hmm.
But that's my first thought because I like need to take a lot of time to like process what I see. So like I watch it the first time, I'm like, "Oh, I loved it. It was awesome."
Yeah.
And then I need to watch it a couple more times to really like think about it. And I
Hmm.
think overall it's more about what they didn't put in
Hmm.
that they could have, that they haven't, to, like, make it feel like a more complete story. I kind of felt the same way watching the Hawkeye series,
Hmm.
not to bring it into Marvel, but for me, that, like, world
No.
building didn't feel, like, complete to me, which is why it's not one of my favorite of the Marvel shows, and I kinda get the same vibe so far with Book of Boba Fett, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When it comes to Marvel, I'm the same way with Hawkeye, but I'm also the same way with What If. Like, What If just did not do any world building for me
Mhm.
at all, really. Um, but with Book of Boba Fett, you're right. Like they touch on these crime lords, and I'm like, oh man, this is gonna set up like a syndicate war and all this other stuff. And we see hints of it being dropped throughout this episode, especially like when the twins show up in just a few minutes here. But we got to go through Flashback City one more time. Which at this point, I think that this is probably going to be the last flashback that we get for a while when it comes to this story. So we have Boba Fett trying to broker a deal with the Pikes, and he leaves the Tusken Raiders to go to Mos Espa to broker the deal with the Pikes. And when he gets back, he sees that the Tuskens have been, or this sect of the Tuskens, or this tribe of the Tuskens, has been completely wiped out and killed and just slaughtered. And we talked last week about the a lot of the indigenous people's rights and stuff like and the topics that that brings up, especially in this show, and how it just felt like they made all of this progress just to get slaughtered, and it just felt like it was kind of a I don't want to say it was a throwaway flashback, but it felt kind of like that because like you see them slaughtered, but there was nothing really leading them to that point because after the train thing, you think like the issue was resolved. Because like they let the Pikes go and they let them live freely and like you think all is right and then like they just get like like ruthlessly slaughtered. So what are your thoughts on this flashback because this is going to bring us back to the present day here. Brooke, your thoughts on the flashback? Like, did you feel the same way? Like, it just feels out of place?
So I think this is, and I have seen a lot of people talk about it online, that this is the thing that a lot of people take issue with, both narratively and just kind of like the real world implications
Hmm.
of what happened to the Tuscans and like how it's because the Tuscans have been, at least in recent times, like more of an allegory for indigenous
Hmm.
groups. Um, so I think, and I've been trying to, because like I am a white person, so I don't want
Yeah.
to speak for anyone else. But so I've really tried to kind of get other perspectives this week and hear what other people have been saying, other
Hmm.
indigenous people. And I have heard from some people that, it feels so jarring and out of place because that's how it is in
Yeah.
history. Like it just happens out of nowhere.
Hmm.
So I feel like narratively, if that's what they were trying to accomplish, they accomplished it.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard, from some people, um, wanting that to be at the end of the episode instead of in the middle because it
Yeah.
feels, at least tonally, there was like a huge tonal shift from like the first act to the second part to the third part of the
Hmm.
episode. And maybe if it had been at the end, people could sit with it a little longer. But if we're thinking about it in like what's realistic, it's sometimes this shit just happens.
Yeah.
Um and so I feel like it does feel odd to me. I was personally a little disappointed that, we spent the last two episodes building up this community and saying, "Hey, like not all Tuscans are like how we see them in A New
Hmm.
Hope," because obviously that was kind of a poor portrayal. They're not all like the Tuscans in what they did to Shmi in Attack
Hmm.
of the Clones. Like we are, different groups. We're not all a monolith of
Yeah.
people, which is very representative, like very similar to actual indigenous groups. They're not all a
Hmm.
monolith of people. So to do this and kind of build up that just to kind of get rid of them for the narrative,
Hmm.
like obviously we were supposed to feel upset and sad. Like that was narratively it worked, but I don't necessarily think that it needed to happen
Yeah.
for Boba's motivation.
Hmm.
Um overall. And like I said, like from hearing, I've heard from some indigenous people that they appreciate the storyline, they appreciate the representation that they've
Hmm.
been given and how it is reflective of
Hmm.
what really happens to these groups and what has happened to them in history. But I've also seen people that have said, it's really disappointing to finally get this amazing, representation just for it to be taken away.
Hmm.
Um, so as far as like the story goes, I don't want to judge the overall thing too much
Yeah.
because I'm hoping that we're gonna get more information. It did feel very abrupt,
Hmm.
and we didn't physically see all of the Tuscans. We saw the chief obviously had been killed, so maybe they're gonna do something where the woman and maybe the child got away.
Hmm.
I know that the Boba had the stick that was the child's, so maybe they're gonna do something and one of them or two of them will pop up later
Hmm.
and they were able to escape. So I don't want to judge it too harshly. I'm hoping that this isn't going to be the last of the Tuscan storyline that we get
Hmm.
overall. Um so I don't know, that's kind of how I feel. It was
Yeah.
kind of a bummer in the middle of the episode
Yeah.
because I wanted to like the rest of it and I did, but I still felt that kind of like weird like
Hmm.
feeling from what happened. That makes sense.
Yeah, John, before I get to you real quick, I don't want anybody to think that I'm being, um, not sensitive or anything like that. Like, I was trying to word the question, and trying to word it, um, to a point where, like I don't want to offend anybody like when asking these questions, especially about indigenous people, because me being a white man, I have no place to talk about indigenous people outside of I love what this show has done with the concept of building up this group of Tuscans and like really showing them as a community and not as a monolith, like you said. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, in no way am I trying to be insensitive to this issue. So I just want you to know that. John, go ahead. Give me your thoughts on the flashback.
Yeah. First, I second everything Brooke said. I think, especially when it comes to the representation and the representation of indigenous people in Star Wars and making that connection to human history,
Hmm.
and a lot of times bad human history. I feel like that might be like the biggest loss here with this flashback is the end, at least for now that we know of that
Yeah.
representation here in the book of Boba Fett. From a strict story point of view, um, I was not a huge fan of them killing
Yeah.
off this sect of Tuscans. I think uh, my only connection that I could make in the story, trying to prophesize going to where this is going to go, is the mercy the Tuscans showed Boba Fett when he crawled out of the Sarlacc pit,
Hmm.
and how he earned their trust.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm drawing some connections with that to the Vespa biker gang,
Yeah.
where they're being painted as criminals, they're being painted as bad people,
Hmm.
and Boba Fett is sitting here going like, you know what? I thought the same way of the Tuscans.
Yeah.
I had a bad reputation also as a bounty hunter,
Hmm.
and I think that's one of the underlying tones of this entire series is the growth of these characters, the maturing of these characters.
Hmm.
And with Boba Fett being obviously advanced in age versus when we first saw him back in the original trilogy, um, you know, older Boba Fett, wiser, smarter, not as physically conducive to that same kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Uh, the Tuscans obviously having a certain tradition that they have,
Hmm.
um, changed a lot of people's minds about what Tuscans can be and how they can be represented in the world of Star Wars.
Hmm.
Now we're seeing it with a biker gang. Boba Fett kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt, showing them, hey, look, yeah, there's bad in the world, but you can be a part of the bigger picture.
Hmm.
Because I'm like, again, you saw that little defiance saying like, oh, you're a criminal, mastermind. You're the daimyo here, and you're just like everyone else.
Hmm.
And Boba Fett's like, no, I'm not like everyone else. Kind of like how the Tuscans were like, no, we're not like the other Tuscans you may have been introduced to in Star Wars.
Hmm.
That might be the only connection I could make. Um, Other than that, I felt the flashback was honestly, it was more of a waste of time than anything else. The only thing I think this did was bring closure to the idea of flashbacks.
Yeah.
With all the flashbacks being related to his survival in the Sarlacc pit to where he is today with the Tuscans, I think you can't have flashbacks anymore because there's
Yeah.
nothing to flashback to.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I will say the idea that the Pike Syndicate is going to be playing a bigger role in what's going on in the Book of Boba Fett was something that I didn't necessarily see coming.
Hmm.
I was kind of hoping to see that war with the twins a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, I just the flashback to me was not as impactful as in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Those carried a lot more weight than this one did. Just from a story perspective, for the
Mhm.
narrative going forward.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So let's move on here because we're actually jarred out of this flashback by an attack on Boba Fett by Black Chrysanthemum, which this is a great sequence, by the way, because one of my favorite things about the show is just repeatedly seeing Boba Fett get his ass kicked. Um, but
Poor
like,
Boba.
but having people like that he trusts like rally around him to like help him out. Like, I think that that is really cool here. Let's just say Black Chrysanthemum is no joke when it comes to beating the crap out of people and trying to kill them. He not only lights up those brass knuckles and punches Boba in the face, but he breaks a few ribs, it sounds like.
I just was like cringed so hard at that.
And it looked like he broke his toe a little bit too, because like you see like the one toe like out of place on his foot.
It's just not
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
But then Boba gets a few shots in, especially with the gaffing stick. But you mean to tell me Black Chrysanthemum wouldn't die from one of those gaffing stick wounds? Like, I mean, it's a brutal fight. The Gamorrean guards get involved. One of them gets bit in the neck. Uh, so
Yeah, I love that they're just like ride or dies for Boba now. They're
yeah,
like, you freed us. We're here for you. We're here for you,
yes.
man.
It was. I love that analogy, by the way. I think that it's great. Speaking of the biting, it's when Boba has his hand on Chrysanthemum's face, and then
Oh,
Chrysanthemum
and
bites him.
I
And
felt that one.
my wife said, so he's going to turn into a Wookiee now, right? Like every full moon on Tatooine, like he's going to turn into a Wookiee. Uh, so, but it's the kids and Fennec and the guards that come to Boba's rescue, and they end up trapping Black Chrysanthemum in the Sarlacc, not the Sarlacc pit, the Rancor pit, I should say. And I gotta say, like, it's interesting because right after that, the twins show up, and then they let him go. Like,
Hmm.
they let Black Chrysanthemum go, and now I'm like, so is he coming back? Like in another way? Because I don't think you introduce this character, have him in only 2 episodes, and just have him ride off into the sunset.
He just like ran. I was like, "Where are you going?"
Yeah,
The way he ran away just cracked me up. I was like, "All right, bye."
yeah, like the twins are going to the left, and Black Chrysanthemum just bolts
He's
to
like,
the
"I'm getting
right.
out of here."
Like it just gets out of there. So this is when the twins show up, and the twins are a little apologetic to Boba Fett, and they reveal that the mayor has been behind all of this so far. But I think somebody else is pulling the strings here. And I still think it's Crimson Dawn. I think that this is Kira that's going to end up being the big bad for this series. I they should have introduced her so far. Like, I mean, they should have
Hmm.
introduced her, but I have a feeling like in the next episode they might do it. With this, we're also given a brand new Rancor with famed Rancor trainer Danny Trejo, aka Machete, which it's not a Robert Rodriguez project without Danny Trejo involved. Um, your thoughts on this exchange with the Southern debutantes, the twins, and and we find out that Boba Fett and this Rancor end up bonding with each other because apparently Rancors form emotional bonds. So let's talk about this whole sequence here. Where do you guys want to start?
We can start with the frolicking Wookiee if you want.
The frolicking
Um,
Wookiee, yes.
so what I think is interesting, and I think Brooke made the point here earlier in the show, was if you're not reading the literature outside of like the movies and the TV shows,
Yeah.
You miss out on a lot of things. Like what I found interesting is I believe it's the Star Wars Bounty Hunter series comic books. Boba Fett and Chrysanthemum actually team up. Like
Yeah.
they're an actual duo.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I would have to assume the way he kind of just is released by all parties involved and has that confused frolic, exit stage right. Part of me feels like he might be coming back. Like maybe Boba Fett's mercy of not killing him, not feeding him to the Rancor, not, keeping him as a prisoner is going to be like the same thing with like, the guards that he set free that are now ride or die, like you were saying with them. Maybe that's a return character coming up when the big fight comes up at the end of, hopefully knock on wood, at the end of the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be honest. I'm a little disappointed the Huts aren't going to play a bigger role.
Yeah.
If that really is their departure of the series, I'm a little bummed. I think the Huts bring a very unique aspect into it. Yes, I get it. War is expensive, like they said, but they're the Huts.
Yeah.
I mean, every era of Star Wars has the Huts, and they're major players in the criminal underground and the gambling scenes and the underground entertainment scenes and everything, going all the way even back to the Old Republic and everything. Like I find it hard to believe that money was the main motivator for the Huts pulling out. Um, but I really feel like that might be an opportunity lost because, like, I feel like a lot of people like the idea of Huts going to war. Like, I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was a little disappointed with that.
Yeah. Your thoughts on this bit, Brooke?
I will say I also felt weird that they were just like, "All right, we're done. Sorry. Here's a gift."
Yeah.
Um makes me think that it maybe doesn't have to do with the money. This is why I think that there is someone above them, above the Pikes, that is like that they're scared of. And I'm really hoping it's Crimson Dawn because if you've read War of the Bounty Hunters, you know that Crimson Dawn and Kira she got all of these crime syndicates together and basically was like, listen to, like, I'm the captain now, like, I so I think they might be scared of something more than they're scared of Boba Fett. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's the kind of my feeling because it feels like, why would you have this huge set piece, like this amazing like practical effect for the most part of these two giant huts, and then only have them in two scenes? Just seems kind of weird to me. I'm hoping that we'll see them again in some capacity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll see Black Chrysanthemum again too because he that jump scare took me out. I was not
That's
expecting
great.
that at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was a dream.
Yeah.
'Cause I was like, how did he even get in there? Like, he's a big dude. Like, how did he sneak up into, like, all the way up into his, like, private quarters?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I don't fully know what's happening because right after that it was like, oh yeah, the Pikes have moved in because they've like laid claim to this
Yeah.
place, and that makes me feel like the Huts are scared of whoever gave the Pikes permission to like come
Yeah.
in. That's kind of my feeling about it. And they've
Yeah.
like kind of, I don't think that they've teased enough. Kind of like, honestly, going back to Hawkeye, they teased that there was someone at the top, the whole like sprinkled it in through all the episodes. I don't know if they've necessarily done that much in this show for me to like really be sure without a doubt that there's someone at the top. That's just kind of what I'm hoping
Yeah.
for, especially when you take into account, War of the Bounty Hunters came out right before it ended right before this show started. Like,
Yeah.
why would you bring in Crimson Dawn and have them relate, like, be in connection with Boba Fett and all of this
Yeah.
stuff if it wasn't going to be something more into canon later?
Yes. Good luck, Zach. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Good luck playing Apex tonight, buddy. Um, yeah, I'm with you here because it seems like this episode is just odd and it's all over the place, especially with the script, because it just seems like you start to get some sense of where it's going, and then like it just kind of does a 180 on you, like especially with the twins. And you're right, you don't spend all of that money on a practical effect, a mostly practical effect, uh, for that, and just have them walk away after a couple of episodes. Like, I think the twins are coming back. I think that their story isn't done here. But you're right. Somebody scared them. It's either Black Sun or it's Crimson Dawn that's giving the Pikes permission to come in here. And we should have seen the Pikes coming into the territory too. Like, they should have shown that as a move that was happening while Boba Fett's been distracted with all of this other stuff. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
should have shown the Pikes moving in. If you're going to do what is a syndicate war, you show the other players moving in. This isn't just about Boba Fett now. This is about the criminal underworld. So start to show them move in. We are shown two gifts given to Boba Fett. One of them is a tribute, and that's Black Chrysanthemum, who waltzes his way out of the show for the time being. And then we get the Rancor and the Rancor trainer here. This scene was it came out of left field, but I love this scene so much because it shows more of the humanity of Boba Fett here and shows him really just trying to be that simple man, trying to make his way to the universe. I will say this. One of my favorite lines during this exchange is Boba Fett wants to learn to ride a Rancor, and the Rancor trainer says, "Well, it hasn't really been done. I'm sorry, look at the cover of High Republic #6 and you'll see Avar Kriss riding a Rancor charging into battle." That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the idea of of Boba Fett like during the final fight of this show, like coming in on a Rancor and just wrecking shit. I love this idea. Your thoughts on this exchange? I'll go with Brooke and then we'll go with John.
I I loved this whole thing. I love that Rancors, kind of like the Tuscans, have been given a little bit more development
Yep.
in this show. Like I love that Rancors now are basically like canonically like puppies.
Yeah. They're
They're
pitbulls.
very remind me of pit bulls, yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
because they bred for fighting, but they're actually really like sweet, complex creatures. I loved that. I loved like the not human is humanizing them, but
Hmm.
same difference of them. Danny Trejo's just amazing. So
Yes.
I was like, how has he not been in Star Wars sooner? But
Exactly.
this is like the perfect character for him to play. And I'm like, part of me, a little part of me is like, what if this is all a trick and they're actually
Yeah.
gonna like kill Boba Fett? Like they're planning that because Danny Trejo's just the way that he is. It's just like, what are you up to?
Yeah.
But I hope it's not gonna go that way. I think he's they're fine and he's just, a weird dude who hangs out with rancors more than he hangs out with other people.
Yeah.
I loved when what is it, 8D8 came in? Is that his name?
Yes.
And he was
Yes.
like, "Sir," and he's like, "I'm busy." And he's just like petting. He's like, "Yeah, oh, that's the spot." This is so funny to me. I love this new version of Boba Fett. I know a lot of people are like, "No, he's supposed to be like the tall, angry guy who beats people up and doesn't say anything." And I'm like, "That's so boring." Like, sure, he looked great doing it, but like I love that they're making him more of like a softie
Yeah.
overall. And I think part of that's probably like Tem and his
Hmm.
just personality being brought into the show too. But I don't know. This was like one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. It was just so like a
Yeah.
warm hug.
Oh yeah. John, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on the exchange.
Yeah, I completely agree with the Pipple analogy with the
Hmm.
Rancor. I think that's spot on. Um, and again, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is one of the things I really enjoy that Star Wars is starting to do now is giving you that background on these characters, on these groups of people that we've known in the universe,
Hmm.
and kind of like showing that not everyone is just bad because we need a bad guy.
Hmm.
That some people are made into being the bad guy, or their life up until this point is what developed them into having this hate or this anger or whatever. The idea that a Rancor can be a sweet, lovable puppy dog is just, I love it. I think it's great. I love the subtle mention of the Night Sisters on Dathomir,
Oh
where
yeah.
Rancors are from.
Yep.
I think it's great that I was like, oh yeah, those witches on Dathomir ride them.
Yep.
And then then Bob was like, well, I'm gonna ride him. It's like, yeah, go for it. Like, I think that's gonna be great. And I agree with you. I think he's gonna like ride in on a Rancor to save the day, which just
Yep.
in my mind, I am so ready for.
Oh yeah.
Um, that had to be like the best scene in the entire episode. Has absolutely nothing to do with anything else going on,
Nope.
but like it was just, for as confusing as this episode was, like that moment would put a smile on my face every time I rewatched it. I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that when Boba leaves, Danny Trejo's character goes like, "Don't worry, he'll be back."
Yeah.
But also, I felt like that was maybe like a "Don't worry, he'll be back and we'll get him" kind of feel.
Hmm.
I don't
That's
know.
yeah. I
Yeah, I'm
wasn't
just like,
sure.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
little weird, but I love that. I love the mention of the Night Sisters. I want to see more of the Night Sisters too. Probably
Yeah.
not in this series, but would love to
Please.
see more of the Night Sisters in there.
Yeah. I think they're coming back at some point, especially because Dathomir's not done yet, especially like after Jedi Fallen Order and Clone Wars and everything. I will say this, like when 8D8 does interrupt everything, and Boba Fett just kind of gives him like this, what the do you want look, like just like, can't you see like I'm trying to do something here? I think that's great, and that leads us to the big plot twist of the episode, I guess you could say, where we find out that the mayor has been involved in things all along. That the mayor was in contact with the Pikes and has done this with the Pikes. And that leads us to a showdown with the Major Domo, who ends up escaping, into which we get,
Escaping.
yes, escaping. And then that's when we get Fast and Furious Mos Espa Drift, uh, here with the Vespa gang chasing down the major domo for the mayor here. Okay, I gotta say this. Like, I love this sequence. I think it's fun, and I think it's silly and stupid and over the top. I love the Melu Run reference to Rebels, especially like
Hmm.
at the end. I think that's great. I this chase is so slow. This
Thank you.
chase is
Thank
so
you.
slow. I mean, it is like, because you would think like he would just be trying to get away like as fast as possible. And like you would think like their Vespas would go faster than that. Or their bikes would go faster than that. And they don't really do that. As people that are like cybernetically enhanced, like they should know how to make their bikes go faster. If they know how to improve themselves, they should know how to make their bikes go faster. That's all I'm going to say. Your thoughts on the chase, Brooke, go ahead.
Uh, it was just so goofy.
It is.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I liked that it did kind of remind me of Rebels because that whole
Mhm.
chase in the first episode, and it
Yeah.
had kind of like I don't know, it just gave me the same vibes. But you can kind of get away with that goofy stuff in animation. But
Yeah.
the for the slowness of it, I've like thought about it a lot, and I've talked to some of my friends, and we've just chalked it up to like the practical effects because like clearly
Yeah.
those Vespas were like actual scooters that had
Mhm.
wheels on them at some point. And we're just edited out, and that on top of because I guess that's obviously a constraint when you're working on such a tight set with all of
Yeah.
these like working parts. That and I'm assuming most of these effects and post production stuff was all done by people who are working from home because
Yeah.
it was still COVID stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm like not judging it too harshly. I thought it
Mhm.
was kind of painfully slow. The second time I watched it, it was like it got a little bit better for me, and I just thought it was
Mhm.
goofy because like the Major Domo's goofy, and I'm like he probably is like I'm trying to escape, but I'm also like trying to obey the rules of the
Yeah.
road. Like I don't know, there was
Yes.
so many things. The thing that bothered me more was that the scooters were so slow. Like you
Yes.
said, like why? I don't know. Were they just like toying with him, or I don't know. It was just goofy,
It
and
was.
I liked some of the sequences, like of
Mhm.
the one girl when she was on top of the building. Like that one shot of her is like so like cyberpunk. It was really cool.
Yeah, that
Before
was
she like
cool.
comes down
Yeah.
onto his car. So there are some cool aspects of it, but it was just kind of like a clunky way of showing it. Like the
Yeah.
some of the shots were a little bit funny. Um but Star Wars is goofy sometimes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's kind of and like it is weird though. I was like, why didn't Boba Fett like he came down in his jetpack? Like, why didn't he just go up in his jetpack and like try to find him?
Yes.
And I get it, it's like story because plot,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I was like, just use your freaking jetpack, man.
It
You
was.
and Mando, just two himbos that like forget that you can literally fly.
Yeah, it was really funny. Before I get to John, real quick, like we were watching this episode in Discord on Wednesday night, and Maggie and Hilo were in there, and like it's right when Boba Fett lands, like at the end of the chase, and like I posed the question, I'm like, why didn't he just fly and chase this guy down and try to like shoot out his engines or something? Like it would have just ended this whole thing. And then like Hilo's like, well, we wouldn't have gotten this epic speeder bike chase like through the streets. I mean, it's fun. It reminds me of like Wacky Racers from like the old Hanna-Barbera days, all that stuff. John, your thoughts on the chase?
I mean, look, I mean, even when the Power Rangers were in their Zords, and they couldn't
Yes.
defeat the baddie, they were able to morph into the Mega Zord. Like I still don't understand why we didn't get the Mega Vespa Zord if
Yes.
their Zords were just too slow. Yeah, painfully slow. Goofy, yes. But I think the oh come on moment was when Boba Fett drops down using his jetpack.
Yes.
And like I'm sorry, like I put myself like as one of the bikers, like behind the scenes, like just around the corner, like he sneaks his head around the corner, sees Boba dropping down with his jetpack. It's kind of like going, oh come on, like really? We did all of this, and that's what you could have done.
Yeah.
Like I get we're here trying to help you, but you'll help yourself too a little bit. Yeah, I just I love the Major Domo as a character. I've said it once, said it again. Uh, by far, like one of my favorite all time characters in any of these miniseries. He's just so hateable, but
Yeah.
yet lovable, and just another unfortunate or whatever the phrase goes. I can't remember now, but is delivered one of the best lines in the
Oh,
opening.
the
Another unfortunate,
understandable,
another understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the chase scene, like I get it. There are ways you can visually enhance it to make it look like it's going faster. Motion blur, please.
Yeah.
Even though, I look, if you're gonna pull scooters out of the 1960s and put them in Star Wars as hover bikes, just give them some speed, please. That's I mean, just I found it more comedical than anything. And in
Yeah.
that moment, in the storytelling, I felt like a faster chase may have played something bigger. But yeah, Burke, your idea of the Major Domo obeying all the like rules of the roads, like while he's like trying to get away,
Yes.
spot
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
100% spot on.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I gotta take this turn. Oh, speed limit says 15. Oh, school kids, around here gotta
Yeah.
slow down. It's like you're trying to get away. Act like you're trying to get away here a little bit. Like we
That
saw these. Good.
Yes. That was one of my favorite things is like you hit the nail on the head there where he's like trying to obey like whatever the speed limit is like on that street on Mos Espa and he's like get out of the way.
He's
Get
like,
out of the
oh, I
way.
gotta get out of here. Yeah.
He just keeps yelling get out of the
It's
way.
so goofy.
Oh, it
I do
is.
like the droid cameo of the pit droids from episode
Yes.
1 in there. I thought that was great.
Yes.
For all of our prequel fans out there, I
Yeah.
saw that. I was like, it's okay. Oh, I was happy. So, it was poor little droid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean he gets clipped hard.
He does.
He
Yeah.
gets clipped hard. Um so that leads us to kind of like the cliffhanger for the episode where we find out like the mayor's involved with the Pikes. I just have I have two more things to talk about. One of them is one of them's another character that kind of takes a backseat in this episode, but doesn't really take a backseat in this episode. And the other one is something very silly when it comes to the biker gang. Fennec Shand kind of takes a backseat in this episode where she just kind of starts to let Boba try to figure things out. And while she is giving advice, she's just kind of there for, I want to say, the spoils of everything because let's face it, like she's there for the food in this episode. She is there for that feast. Your thoughts on the use of Fennec Shand in this episode, Brooke?
I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, she really wasn't featured that heavily in this episode versus the other two, which is strange because the other two had so many more flashbacks
Mm-hmm.
versus this one. I'm hoping that we'll get a flashback to when Boba saves her. I think that will be kind of cool. Like I'm hoping like as much as it is the book of Boba Fett, like she's the other highest billed actress.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see more of her and her backstory and, why she decided to even help Boba in the first place, why he decided to save her. So in this particular episode, I love that she's kind of like a little bit of like comedic relief, but also is kind of like the not like devil or angel on his shoulder, but just kind of like trying to steer him in the right direction. But I think after the first couple episodes, she's just kind of like slowly given up a little because obviously he's gonna just do whatever he wants to do, no matter what she says. But yeah, I want to see more of her going forward.
Yeah, I agree. John, your thoughts on Fennec Shand?
Yeah, I think she switched places this episode with the biker gang. I feel like in the first two episodes, she did kind of prove her loyalty
Yeah.
to Boba Fett to the point where I think her as a character in this story, she's pretty well cemented in where she falls in not just the hierarchy within Boba Fett's criminal underground circle, but just like in the story. And now you have the biker gang coming in. You hear her say, well, do you want to work or not? Kind of thing when they first got introduced. So she's still that authoritative figure. And then when Chrysanthemum's attacking Boba Fett, she comes in with the biker gang. So immediately in my head, I'm thinking, okay, she's kind of being their guide, their teacher of like, hey, this is your role. This is what we're going to expect. This is what Boba is going to expect. Make sure you're there kind of thing. And then the rest of the episode was that biker gang kind of proving that loyalty to Boba Fett, saying, hey, you gave us a chance. You could have arrested us. You could have thrown us in a Rancor pit. You didn't. You gave us a chance. You gave us work, which is all we really wanted.
Yeah.
And now we're going to repay you, kind of proving that loyalty. That's how I kind of interpreted it, but I fully agree. I need me some more Fennec Shand in this series. It's a great character. Fennec is just fantastic. I think a flashback to when Boba saves her is a great idea. I think that would be perfect. But yeah, I think overall that might be the reason why she took a backseat in this episode. I'd expect her to come back and be a bigger player in the future episodes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think you both said it perfectly. That they needed to establish the loyalty for the biker gang first. They need to show that they can be loyal to Boba Fett, and they will be, especially after this episode. So my silly thing here now is people are finding everything to nitpick about this show and just can't enjoy this show. We've had people tweeting about I don't remember her name, the character on the blue bike. People have been tweeting about her vest and how it's futuristic and it shouldn't have zippers and all this other stuff. I wanted to close the show out with this ridiculous thing because I think it's ridiculous that we're talking about a character's biker vest. It 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 goes back to the stuff that we've been talking about the past 2 weeks, John, with like these ridiculous people just finding just ridiculous things to nitpick over the show. It'd be like, oh no, this show sucks because she has zippers on her vest. Like, really? Like, that's what you're taking away from this show. So, this is your go outside and touch some grass moment. That if anybody wants to weigh in here.
I mean, the people that are doing that they didn't have any intention on enjoying the show in the first place.
Exactly.
So they're going in with those preconceived expectations that it's going to be bad. So they're going to pick anything they could possibly find to be bad. I think it's funny, though, that, up until now, up until the Book of Boba Fett, it was, oh, the sequels are terrible because Kathleen Kennedy was in charge of them.
Yeah.
But Favreau and Filoni, they're in charge of The Mandalorian, and they're running their own show, and they're gonna do all this stuff to like retcon the sequels. And as soon as something happens in this show that they don't like, they've like completely turned on those guys too, and it's just so funny and predictable. But it's just like every time it makes me laugh more than anything else.
Yeah.
When you see something so ridiculous, it's like, oh, okay, so now Star Wars fans are complaining about checks notes zippers.
Yeah.
Like, of all things.
Yeah.
I saw another post from last week that was like, it was a shot of Mos Espa in Book of Boba Fett, and then the picture of Mos Espa in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It's like, they look so different. They're not even the same thing. And it's like, dude, why? Why does it matter to you that much?
Well, even okay, so going to that point here. In the Phantom Menace, they actually like tell you it's a pretty big city on Tatooine. Like they imply how big this city is. You just don't see it until we get to the Book of Boba Fett. So yeah, I mean, does it really matter how big this city is? Like, who cares? Just enjoy it. John, your thoughts on Check's notes? Angry man yells at cloud.
Yeah. So like kind of like the joke I made back when we were reviewing episode 1 here. Um, look, the Tatooine real estate market is booming.
Yeah,
It's everyone wants to move to Tatooine. Everyone wants to be a part of the action.
yeah.
That's how cities are made. And yeah, fun fact, I was born in a very small town in South Carolina that was not even a dot on the map. I lived there for a whole whopping year and a half before I moved to a gigantic city halfway around the world. Now I go back, and it's less time than what episode 1 was to the Book of Boba Fett. And it is a massive, massive city now and is a dot on the map. It happens.
Yeah.
Like it happens. Like there's places in New York City you can go to that look like episode 1 version of Tatooine and the large cities there. And then if you do a wide pan out shot, guess what? You see Manhattan and you realize, oh, this is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Get over yourself. 2, zippers.
Yes.
I believe Poe in episode 7, 8, and 9 had snaps on his pouches. Not futuristic either. Magnets definitely used. We have those present day. Definitely not futuristic at all. The only thing that Star Wars can have are things that we definitely don't have, like, you know, galactic battleships and Death Stars and laser guns and things that are only fantasy, because if it's way too relatable, then I can't watch this and it's garbage and it's Kennedy's fault, because everything's Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Kennedy's fault. So yeah, I think if you are going to complain about something, it needs to be like, look, I'm not going to sit here and say someone's opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
If the opinion is actually about the show, if you're complaining that, oh, I don't like this person was casted as this character, that comes down to being a personal bias. Like you don't like that actor or actress and you're automatically writing it off because that actor or actress is in here. That's on you then. If you're going to sit here and nitpick the clothing, how the clothing looks, and that's going to be your main hit on this series, yeah, like Brooke said, you came into this wanting to hate it. You came in looking for hate. You're ignoring what's going on the screen. You're ignoring the story. You're looking for things that just irritate you. Yeah. And look, I mean, it must be nice having nothing else in your life to worry about other than the clothing on a sci-fi miniseries on Disney Plus that you're paying money for in your subscription, by the way. So you're funding that terrible outfit.
What?
Yeah, don't tell them. Don't tell them. I find it ridiculous. Like, if you're going to be upset at the slow scooter chase, fine. I think that's a legitimate thing to be, you know, to have an opinion on. If you're upset because, you know, it's 3 episodes in, we're almost more than halfway through the series and we still don't really have a big baddie. We don't have a real direction that it's going to go. I feel like that's a legitimate thing to be upset about. Yeah. But a zipper. I mean, the fact that the Vespa scooters look like they came out of the 1960s kind of irritates me, but you want to know something? I don't care enough for it to bother me. Like, I just don't care. Like, it's kind of funny at the end of the day. Just get over it. Like, stuff like that is stupid. Like if you're gonna get upset with the direction or the story or something, and then like and don't be like negative about it. Just be like, hey, look, for me, the way they did this, it just to me it didn't make sense. Or I was expecting X, Y, and Z, but I can understand why somebody would like this or why somebody would like this moment. And that's completely fine. You don't have to like everything that they put out. There are like again, Mandalorian, season 2, episode 2 in the ice cave with the spiders. Not a fan of spiders. Hate spiders, actually. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, but guess what? Hate spiders. Can't stand them. That episode did absolutely nothing for me other than freak me out most of the time. I did not go back and rewatch it, but you want to know what? I still loved it. I still loved what it brought to the series.
Yeah.
You don't have to be negative all the time. Believe it or not, being positive is acceptable in 2022. And it was in 2021 and in 2020 and in 2019. Just don't be a terrible person and just get over yourself. If a zipper is making you that upset, turn the TV off. No one wants you watching.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, your $7.99 Disney subscription isn't worth the price of being mad at a zipper.
It probably paid for that zipper, but it's
or like if you have the Disney bundle, you're $14.99. Just whatever. Just I had to end the show on that goofy note because
I love it.
Because it's so dumb. It's just so dumb that we're nitpicking this like this. And Brooke, you're right. It's the people that are just like, well, Kathleen Kennedy single-handedly killed Star Wars, and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are doing their own thing. No, Kathleen Kennedy has to greenlight that project, by the way.
Yeah.
So all of these things have Kathleen Kennedy sprinkled all over them. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Anything else before we wrap up, or are we good here, people?
Feel pretty good.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Go read Eye of the Storm if you haven't already done so.
Yes.
Last PSA for that.
Exactly. Go read that. Read all of the Star Wars comics that are coming out because they're awesome.
Oh, I have one thing.
Yeah.
For those of us that listen to the audiobooks,
yes.
First off, big shout out to Mark Thompson. I absolutely love the voices he's come up with.
Yes.
For these audiobooks.
Yes.
This is not the face of that voice.
No.
That's the only thing I'm going to say. I love the voice. That voice does not match up with that face, though. It's kind of like when you see like a big muscular guy and they're like, "It's welcome to my pizzeria." You're like, "Oh wait, what?" Like,
wait a second.
Hey there, guys.
Yeah, like Stevie P. No,
yeah.
So, but no, like I love Mark Thompson's portrayal of Ro. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It may just be that cover.
Yeah.
But definitely not the face I was expecting. I still think it looks great. Kudos to the artist for drawing it. I think it's amazing. Just was not what I had in my mind.
No, I'm the same.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Especially with that. But yes, also if you are if you're looking to get into Star Wars books but you don't really want to read but you want to listen to them, Audible is a great place for that as well. Definitely check that out. You get 1 credit each month. Just let those credits build, man, and just build your Star Wars library with that. I should get an Audible sponsor for this because I've been talking about them a lot lately, but we'll talk Audible if you're watching. But yeah, that's it for us tonight. My friends, tune in next week. John, I don't think you're going to be here next week. Is that right?
I will not be here next week. I have an engagement. I apologize.
It's okay. It's fine. We'll get you on the 5th week of Book of Boba Fett. So that's going to be it for us this week. Brooke, thank you once again for joining us. You were awesome.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I hope that you had a good time. You're welcome back anytime. John, you're always part of this. You're stuck with me, bud. You're part of my team, brother.
Let's go.
Yeah. That is it for us this week. We hope that you have a wonderful week. May the force be with you. Always fight for light and life. R.I.P. Starlight Beacon transmission. R.I.P. Starlight Beacon. Not my podcast. I'm not ending this podcast.
Are you changing the name anytime soon, or are you going to stick with it?
No, you and T-Spans can spam me all you want for that. That is it. Remember, we are all the Republic. That's it for us.